Hello, everyone. My name is Debbie Forster. I am the CEO of the Tech Talent Charter. Many of you who signed up, you are familiar faces and names to us, and I'm delighted to have you here for our first one. A little bit of ground rules. First of all, we are the Tech Talent Charter. So our usual basic thing is, one, we're going to focus on the practical. I'm not going to spend time trying to convince you why inclusion and diversity matters. You already get it. And I'm also not going to spend a lot of time talking to you about why these alternate routes into training are important, because you signed up for the call, so you must already get it. But I will say, from our annual report, from the surveys and the research that we're looking at, I have been predicting for about the last 6 months. This is the game-changing piece. If we accept that the whole pipeline is broken and we're not getting enough underrepresented groups into tech, and we don't have enough talent in tech, absolutely, we have to look at what's happening in schools. But even if we fixed everything that's broken in schools by next Thursday, which we're not, it's going to take 10 years before any of us as employers are going to feel the benefit of that. And in the meanwhile, we have thousands of people who didn't get on board the tech train. Okay, and we need to think about ways, because there's a really rich opportunity, because these are people we know from research, for example, that HP has done, that a number of women, the majority of women, are interested in a career in tech, and 45% of those are willing to retrain to get into tech. So there is this talent pool. Also remembering to say, Tech Talent Charter, we began with the lens of gender, but we've moved much beyond that. If all we did is just get 50% white middle-class women into tech, that's no more diverse. We've still got a long way to go. So when we're on the call and the questions and the discussion, we don't just have to look at the lens of gender. This isn't, when we talk about retraining things, this isn't just for mummies. It's for a much wider group. Because we're the charter, we're going to focus on the practical. We're going to talk about what works, but we're also going to talk about what doesn't work. This is a space where it is safe. Nobody joins the charter because they have said, we've got this figured out, it's done, it's dusted, you know, give me my badge. Everyone is trying to figure out, how can we make this work? And everyone is also bought into, we don't treat this like a trade secret, okay? This is so broken. No single organization can solve it by themselves. It's only by finding ways to share best practice, to build on each other's ideas, to collaborate, are we going to make any inroads. I'm tired of watching the same thing happen. If we're going to really move the dial, we've got to focus on the practical, but we've got to find ways of collaborating. This is our first time to do an event like this. I'm delighted and terrified. In my perfect world, my pilot would have only had 10 of you from the audience, okay? Because I like to break things and clean it up easily with no one seeing. One of my minimum viable products for this product is not to swear on mic when something goes wrong, okay? Anything above that, I'm gonna feel is a success. So thank you for joining. Thank you in advance for any patience that we may need. The one thing I'll say in advance, my panelists are ace. Once I start throwing questions, they're going to be great. The only thing I think we might have technical hitches is when I move you into the breakout rooms. But this is an important thing that we did, and we took this decision, and it was interesting how many of you said you wanted the opportunity not just to hear, but to be able to talk between yourselves. So what we're going to kick off with is this discussion with our panel. We have some questions that you've already sent us. If you want to send another question, send it to hello@Tech Talent Charter. Anna will magically feed that back to me through the magic of internet safety. I'm going to stop someone's video. And then we will break you into our breakout rooms. In that breakout room, you'll be able to turn the mic on, turn the microphone, do your video on, and talk between yourselves to say what's working, what's not working, if you've got some great ideas or you still have those burning questions. But the last thing to remember, I hate talking shop that doesn't have practicality. My goal, my promise to you today, and also my homework. I am an ex-educator. I was a teacher and a head teacher in my point, so I'm going to pull out my best head teacher look and shake my finger at you by the end of the call. I want this session to end with you having at least 1 or 2 things that you can go away and start working on today. It might be an action. It might be someone you're going to connect with. It might be reaching and doing something really different. It might be coming back to us with questions. But I am going to set you homework at the end. What are you going to pledge to do in the coming days? The last thing I'm going to say is I'm declaring this until we get to the Q&A, a room that is free. This is a no C word. Okay, as much as possible until we get to the Q&A, I don't want to talk about Corona, right? We will talk later, and we have to start thinking about what happens and what will be our new normal post-Corona, but we're just going to accept that it's a crazy time. There's not easy answers, but for many of you, we're starting to come up for air, and we're starting to look ahead, and we're starting to try and think about what could we do that's exciting and different and continues to move the dial in that post-C word world. All right, so I think we have everyone here. I'm going to hand over the toughest question. This is the one that I'm really tough on this on my panelists. I hate panel discussions that half the panel is taken up by everybody explaining who they are, what they do, and why they're here. So my panelists know they have a challenge. You have 1 minute or less to introduce yourself to the audience, to say where you're from and why you're here. Why is it relevant that you're on this panel? Who wants to jump in first? Conrad, Conrad, you flinched first, so that means you're first, Conrad.
Okay, right. Okay, so my name's Conrad Langworthy. I'm head of Software Engineering Academy at Sky, which essentially aims to offer opportunity to people to come to Sky and start a career in technology. As part of Software Engineering Academy, I run something called Getting to Tech, which is a free 15-week training course offered to women that would like to start careers in software development. The reason I'm on this panel is we have a fairly mature product now. We've been running Getting to Tech for around about 4 years. I've been running the academy since its launch in 2011, and I've got a whole stockpile of experience that I'd like to share with you.
Brilliant, thank you. Who wants to go next?
I guess I'll go. Hi everyone, my name is Li Liao. I'm actually a consultant and a software developer apprentice at Deloitte. I joined the firm in October 2019 after a 5-year career break through their pilot Return to Work retraining program. And I'm really excited to be here to share my personal experience of getting on the program as well as my journey to date.
Lovely.
Very good. I guess me next.
Yep.
I'm Ben Sweetman. I'm from QA. I'm the Director of Learning Design here. And I think particular experiences, having worked across, I'm a deep apprenticeship nerd, so I love that, particularly from a tech point of view, but then also into how to design learning programs, blended learning, and also some of the bit around the interesting bit about recruitment and removing barriers, which is one of the reasons I love apprenticeship so much, is how do you remove barriers for people to get into an industry and see that as transferable to this.
Fantastic.
So that's me.
So I think if we look across the three of you, we've got different stages. So, you know, Conrad, as you said, you've got an established program. You're always looking at how you improve it, how you're going through that, but you have a sense of really how to embed that and make that better as an internal program, as something that you can wrap your arms around. Ben, you have a lot of experience of working across a number of companies. You've probably across that, won't name names, but you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of these programs and have a sense of how different organizations work and how organizations work across, you know, in terms of cross-company programs. And then Lee, you're our real deal, all right? You're the person we're trying to get, you're the person we're trying to find. And it's important that we have that voice. This is not something that we do to or for people. It's something we do with people to bring great people in. And as we hear from you, Lee, and your journey, that's going to be very exciting for us because we'll want to know, how do we find our leads? How do we get our leads on our program and make that work? Okay, so let's pretend, everyone to my panel, that I want to start a program. Okay, so there's nothing there. So I'm on that last half of our survey. You know, what are the ingredients of the success? What must I do to go from no program to getting a program off the ground? Who wants to jump in? What is the key aspects to make it happen, start inside my company?
Okay, so so I can start with that if you like.
Right.
So for me, and looking back at when we started getting into tech, the first thing that we need to recognise as an organisation is that there's an issue. That there simply or wasn't enough women thinking about technology, and in particular software development as a career for them. And if we looked across the landscape of our technology teams back in 2015, 2016, there were very few women in our delivery team, but that was recognised throughout the entire organisation. And so, in terms of convincing people right the way, from our CEO down to our CTO and throughout the leadership teams and into delivery teams, we all recognised that there was we were missing a trick to a certain degree by not doing something to encourage women into technology. So that for us was initially the key ingredient, to have that buy-in in our organisation as to why we wanted mixed gender teams, and what the value was that having women in our delivery teams was actually going to be.
Super. I mean, Ben, can you build on that a little? Because you've seen companies that have got it right, as Conrad did, in terms of getting the buy-in, and you've seen some that maybe haven't got that. What were some of the ingredients of those that did, and those, more importantly, those that didn't?
Yeah, and I think that Conrad mentioned persuasion. I know we're assuming everyone on this call's persuaded, but where we've seen it work best is where you get there's this balance of the kind of technical management layer being a huge part of making sure this is successful, wanting to do this as part of their teams, being really focused on making the change, and then being involved throughout, being more than just a customer that says send me the people when they're ready, is saying I'm going to be part of molding them. And it's not just a boot camp. That's one of the ones that we often see is just stick them in a boot camp and we'll wait, and you give them to us and they're ready when you give them to us, aren't they? And it's done, right? Yeah. Okay, good. Those are the ones that then, so getting a sense that there is this ongoing support for technical management layer.
Absolutely. And I think it's that getting it to the middle layer, isn't it? The top buy-in has to happen, or you just don't get out of the starting gate. But if you've not got that middle layer, it's just not going to go anywhere, is it?
Yeah, and it's where a lot of the understanding of the craft of technology, of how to really do it in the real world, how to be a real practitioner or not to be, it exists in that layer. And so they're a huge part of helping people be successful, I think.
And Lee, you saw that, because I remember we talked about how important it was for success for you to have so many lines of support. It wasn't just, boot camp, line manager, go. Can you talk to me about all the different kinds of support that you've been able to draw on?
Yeah, I mean, the firm itself, I think they pride themselves a lot on having pastoral care, making sure that their workers are well taken care of outside of the work domain. Being someone who has spent 5 years out of work and then coming back to a workplace in a new environment, also trying to retrain in something that, quite honestly, I have no background in. I don't have a STEM background. There are a lot of extra challenges that comes with it. So what I think the firm did was they tried to replace unrealistic expectations with realistic ones. They tried to remove negative self-talk. So, rather than I have failed to deliver this code, or I failed at not getting approval for this document, it's more of a I'm learning, because they recognize that we are apprentices. Everything is brand new. They are very into welcoming all different perspectives. So they understand that we are individuals, as opposed to treating us as one cohort, that you are all apprentices. They're trying to get us to know our individual quirks, I guess. What do we need to, be successful? And they feed into that. So yeah,
and that's really good, because I think what's really important, and it builds on what Conrad and Ben were talking about. You have to have that internal buy-in and understanding that this is not a single kind of commodity. You're not all a tin of beans that we only need to, heat, stir, and serve. This is complex, different starting points, different end points. I liked the way you talked about as well. There was line manager, but there was also other lines of support, including, a buddy, somebody that you can say something that you feel too stupid to ask a line manager on.
Yeah, I've got about 3 buddies who they are not related to my actual role. So they're totally independent. So basically I could go to any one of them at any point in time and say, look, I'm having this problem, whether it's work related, the apprenticeship related, or even personally related, because we are living in that time where everything is kind of meshed into one. There's also got line managers. You've got people who are managing on projects. So that there's I would say about 4 or 5 layers of support available.
Super. And it's important to remember, because we're going to have companies of all sizes in the call and when we talk about programs like this. So for some companies, they can build all of that in internally, and they can build in all these lines of support. In other companies, if you're a smaller company, it's having that awareness and thinking about how you're going to source that. Conrad, I remember in our discussion, the other thing I liked that you did, you talked about being clear about next steps and next chapters, what came after, because it was a journey. It's back to that thing again. We don't just, and when we teach them to code, it will just poof, they come out the other end. Conrad, do you want to talk about how you got that thinking right?
Yeah. I mean, this kind of goes back to what Ben was talking about, in that if you don't get it right, then there is a misconception that we'll just put them in a boot camp, cook them there for 5 weeks. When they come out, they'll be fully fledged software engineers, can go into our business, and they'll be all right, won't they? It isn't like that at all. And so the journey path that we decided to take with Getting to Tech is that it was seen as the first stage of a journey. So in order to enroll on Getting to Tech, you don't have to have cut a line of code. All you have to really have is a desire and the drive to want to become a software developer. And Getting to Tech's goal, if you like, is that by the time that you reach the end of the scheme, you are in a position then to apply for entry-level roles. And Software Engineering Academy is one of those opportunities. If you come to Sky and you like it there, and you think, actually, this is a place that I could continue on developing my career, then as a result of Getting to Tech, you can apply for a place on Software Engineering Academy, which is then a full-time role as an associate software developer. And then very much your journey takes a step up in gears, because we're then developing you into a fully fledged technologist. We put you through our quite an intensive training program, but it's all designed that at each stage you are stepping up a gear in terms of your progression, and so we look to put the support around the individual in order to enable them to do that. I think one of the other key ingredients for making this successful is that your organisation has to be willing and has to accept that the ladies that are perhaps coming onto your schemes are on a very different journey to perhaps someone that's applying to you directly, and therefore you have to give quite a lot of thought in terms of how you're going to support those individuals through a journey that you might not be familiar with.
And it's that spirit of one, particularly in those first years when you're doing it, everyone has to understand this is a pilot and some things are going to go wrong. And that goes back to that internal buy-in, because otherwise you have people going, oh, see, I told you this wasn't going to work. And I laugh when that happens, because, when we say that we're going to hire someone who's done retraining and it goes wrong, those people that panic and say, see, I told you it wouldn't work. But, we hire people who have brown hair or left-handed, and when that goes wrong, we don't say, see, I told you, I'm never hiring another left-handed brown-haired person again. That's just crazy. It's that experimentation. And I'm always worried when companies say, well, we just had to reskin our grad program, right? No. This is not just reskinning something. This is a completely different journey. Ben, do you want to add on that? Anything else on where you've seen on that sort of setup? And then I think we'll join into that attraction piece once we've got our program built. So is there anything else, Ben, that I need to think about if I'm setting up my program?
So it's sort of the setups / learning design bit is that just to be so this is the where it goes wrong. It's like there's a tendency to do a bit of content stuffing. It's trying to teach everyone a bit of everything, just in case they might get put in any project in anywhere in the. And that's we can get into the kind of how that's delivered. But as a kind of design intention, I would suggest at the start be really disciplined around. In the job role, what are 1 or 2, maximum 3 kind of real core skills that people need to master, and don't try to get them to learn 72 technologies.
And that links into what Conrad was talking about. What's the next step? And it's just being that really clear. If we just throw it all in and spin, of course it will work. And I see Lee over there nodding. Right? Yeah, it is that, because otherwise you can't just burn people out through the sheer complexity and information. And this is already a huge confidence gap and a huge learning curve. If you overstuff it, people will just throw up their hands and walk away, won't they?
Particularly in technology, where jargon is 1,000 times worse than. Yeah.
Lee's smile says it all, doesn't it? Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think being a participant, I've realized that when companies kind of go in to recruit and also to put on these programs, they really need to tailor the program to fit to their company's technology appetite. That is the only way it's going to work, because you'll probably end up with apprentices who have skills that you don't actually have any use for, whether it's now or in the future. So you have to be, I guess, realistic with what you expect.
And it is always about, in early days, less is more. Do a few things really well and then build from there, rather than, we want all the dogs, all the ponies, the bells, the whistles, and confetti. All right, so staying on this idea, a lot of you guys have been talking about confidence gaps, skills gaps, overwhelming everything else. Let's pretend I've got my internal buy-in. Everybody's behind me. We're ready to go. We think we've planned the perfect learning journey. It's neat, it's lean, it's ready. And now I need to find it. I need to find my people. And, I hear 2 really different stories. I have some people say, we just can't find people to do it. But then I hear other people going, oh my God, we always have a waiting list. We're always oversubscribed. So, and Lee, I found it really, really interesting. You talked with real energy about why you went for this course and this piece as opposed to others, because there are lots of return or retraining programs. So Lee, if I'm wanting a Lee, someone who has experience, has the wider experience, has a lot of professional skills, not a STEM background, and I want to find you, what was the key that meant Deloitte found you and you carried through? What was it about the attraction and the recruitment that clicked and worked for you?
I think for Deloitte, the way that they had proposed the role, they removed all barriers. So the job itself, if I remember correctly, it was, you had to have GCSEs. You did not have to have a degree in technology. Actually, it was, you cannot have a degree in technology. You've been out of the workplace for more than 2 years. And, basically their core ethics and values. The advertisement actually removed all of those self-doubts that you normally get, because usually as a woman, you tend to want to check every single box. And there was literally, you check the boxes.
I love the way you said they designed it. They almost turned the barriers into prerequisites.
Yes.
So the sorts of things that would say, well, I can't do it because you mustn't have a degree. Yes. You mustn't have worked in a few years. So it's that turning it around that turn what you would perceive as barriers into prerequisites that help build that.
Correct. And their actual, they were very transparent, very honest. It was very clear communication on the role. They explained to you, the different steps that you are going to go through, rather than bombard you with, this is what it's going to, you're going to have to go through 10 assessment centers, you're going to do this, do that. They literally just broke it down for you. So it just removed so many barriers. especially.
And the transparency as well. Again, so it's
Yeah.
not turning it into another big grad scheme. Conrad, Ben, you know, what do you see that does or doesn't work in recruitment practices in terms of attraction, but then the actual processes of serving, of bringing people in? What are we finding?
So, I was just thinking about your question and thinking about when we first started with getting to tech. So there weren't many organisations actually that were running such a thing, we had to put quite a lot of thought into, well, how do we let people know that this is happening? And one of the first key mandates that I adopted was I was deliberately not going to look at technology-based pools. I was one of the reasons why I wanted to start this was I wanted to go and look in pools that I normally wouldn't look in. So marketing and HR and finance and all of those kind of places. And I think at the beginning it was quite a hard slog. I mean, we did the normal sort of things, the normal sort of social media things, and we had websites, and we did lots of we do a lot of conferences at Sky where we can talk about these things and that kind of thing. But once I identified a pool, I really looked after them at the beginning. I was having, quite often having, conversations with them, trying to overcome some of the confident issues of, why should I? Can I even do the course? That kind of thing. But as we've progressed over the years, actually that's become a lot less of an issue, because the ladies that have gone through the course, and particularly the ones that are at Sky, do an absolutely fantastic job of broadcasting the success of it on my behalf to other people.
Yeah.
And so now we are in a position where we do have waiting lists, and we have to run, and we do run more courses. So I would say it isn't really, for what we do, it isn't really like your normal recruitment process in the way that we go about it. It is quite different. Once we get to the academy itself, and we're looking at bringing them into a role, well, then we've got a tailor-made pipeline already set up coming out of the courses, which helps us then address our gender balance. So I think the message there would be, you have to be a little bit more bold with it in the way that you go about looking for people, and certainly looking in different industrial sectors that I would never go into to find people. Definitely was really successful for us.
Okay, so I'm hearing so far, and then Ben, you need to fill in some more gaps for me. I need to keep it simple. I need to find ways of building confidence and turn those what are perceived as liabilities into strengths. I've got to not do business as normal. That definition of insanity is doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different outcome. So we've got to go fishing in different pools, and initially really have to do a lot of hand-holding and conversation. This is about forming relationships. Once it becomes established, those people become the ambassadors for that. Ben, is there anything else that you've seen in terms of that attraction and the recruitment piece?
Yeah, so I think it's great. I mean, you're definitely trying to get down to truly what is aptitude and strip out qualifications being used as a proxy for aptitude. So even STEM, it's amazing how few people do STEM A-levels, and obviously if you do STEM A-levels, you're in demand. The next bit that's interesting that one of our clients had got sort of great insight that they found was, when people say, all I want is a passion in tech, defining how people are interviewing for a passion in tech is fascinating. So they were really opening out their pool, not just gender, all backgrounds. And they found that they put interviewers in, and their way of interviewing for passion in tech was, so do you like networking? It's like, I don't. So getting right down to that level of detail about how do you define this passion for tech, and it's not about I build my own PCs or I write my own code. It's like there's something even to that level of kind of almost obsessive detail about how do you take out these kind of barriers, and it just takes, in that sense, a bit of creativity to write better questions.
Yeah, and that kind of what you're saying there, Ben, is what Conrad was saying. Early days, it's less the formal interviews, but the conversations of leading to it. And it's like anything on something new, conversations actually help you understand what it is you want and how you find it. And so it's, again, that stepping outside the comfort zone. Okay, so I'm mindful of time, and I'm hoping on every one of these people are saying, damn it, why isn't she talking more about that? That's because the breakout rooms, you're going to be able to flesh this out more. But okay, I've got a program where everybody inside is ready for it to roll. They get it. They're understanding a different way. I have put together a program that I think the learning outcomes are right. I have a super attraction process. I know where to go. I've got a really simple, easy, and I go back to that thing as well. One thing, Leah, you were saying is there was also very clear time scales. I would throw in a comment, because I have talked to a lot of people who've been burned by processes where, my God, it went 3 months and I heard nothing from anybody, and I didn't know my occasion, so I gave up. Now, we know that's probably because it was a company that had no idea what they were doing and trying to figure it out. But by not figuring it out, people walk away, don't they, Lee?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been through I'm from government sector, so,
long and drawn out. You understand long and drawn out.
Pretty much, a year, a year and a half. Whereas this was like a dream come true. It was ran with military precision. It was, you have 1 week, to do this part. You complete it, submit it. We'll, basically mark it. And that's how it ran. There were like a few delays, which obviously comes up, but that was, communicated clearly.
And Lee, you're on a relatively small cohort as well, because this is really early days for Deloitte. How many are on your cohort?
There's 16.
Okay, so even for a company the size of Deloitte, they very sensibly are keeping this quite a self-contained thing. I'm terrified when I hear companies saying, yes, we're going to do it, and in the first year we're going to have 100 candidates. And you just think, cool, good luck with that. Let me know how you get on. I'll wait from here. Okay, so some of our members are already in existing programs. These are rolling for a while. If I'm on the call and I want to think, what are some things that I should be grappling with to make it better? What should I be thinking about to improve it, to make it a more attractive course, a more effective course? Do any of you have advice? If I already have a program, but it's still got a few kinks, where should I be looking at first to really make it outstanding?
So I think for my mind, I mean, the experience of getting to tech has been great, and I've seen people from all sorts of backgrounds come onto the course. But at Sky, we're in a bit of a fortunate position in that getting to tech isn't our only means of bringing women into technology. So we run a dedicated returners program. We have scholarship programs for ladies to obtain scholarships and work on some fantastic technical products. So I think continually thinking about what it is that perhaps people might want from an organization, providing new ways for them to adopt technology or be involved in a scheme. That was really important to us. I think where getting to tech is concerned, as I think's already been mentioned, we try. Obviously, software development is a very practical and technical subject, but we tried to be mindful of divorcing some of the technology away from the course. So we do use a number of technology stacks, but we use them to get people into the right habits. So writing and cutting clean code, efficient code, all of that kind of stuff. But I think as we've gone over the course, it's been prepared to continually evolve it to the needs of the individual, but also ensuring that, because the academy changes and what we look for there, making sure that getting to tech actually reflects that. So it doesn't become an impossible task for them to take that next step if they want to.
Super. Ben, are you seeing anything in existing programs that you're starting to think in different ways?
Yes, I think it's really interesting to start to get start to think beyond pure technical roles. Are definitely a big part of it, but actually some of the sort of hybrid business digital opportunities that are coming around as part of kind of a digital transformation push, and that being a really good opportunity for retraining. So whether it's business, business analyst type roles, data, the more design side of it, which is still has a technical element, we're seeing that starting to be quite interesting.
And what's interesting from that is also to think about when you start going down that road as well, you start thinking quite often, this retraining piece doesn't just have to be for external candidates. And I think the really powerful piece that is starting to think about is how might we retrain people already in our organization who are either getting bored and starting to look, or are in jobs that are at risk and coming in. I can remember there was a story someone talking about at BT, one of their biggest successes on a retraining piece is someone who had been running their call centers for 10 years in retraining was helping design their chatbot. And so if you think about upskilling something and then using somebody who has this deep understanding of the problem space becomes really, really exciting. Lee, do you have anything, I mean, as a person on it, but if you were giving advice to organizations that already have programs, because you must have seen other programs, is there any advice you would give before we go to questions?
Yeah, I definitely think just providing the opportunities to learn and influence. Technology is so broad. You know, you've got everything from testing, RPA, technical architecture. You've got those that just do the design aspect of it. So it's very broad, and not everyone is going to be great at coding. Some people probably aren't going to get it, but they're going to be excellent in a different area. So I think it's just really a matter of organizations, I guess, opening that up and realizing that the talent and the experience that they have within, you know, could go miles for them if they're just given the opportunity.
Okay, so I've been having some questions sent across to me from Anna that have come from the audience or been sent to them before. The ones that I was thinking, so the really interesting ones we've sort of touched on. Do you find candidates with a STEM background are more successful? What is your feeling? How important is it to have a STEM person? Lee, you had an interesting comment in that. And I'm sorry, I did it just as you went for a drink of water. But you said on your course, you know, and this is by no means a scientific study, but within your cohort, STEM versus non-STEM people, how were they doing on it?
We were a very diverse and mixed bunch of people. Surprisingly, those without STEM seem to have excelled.
Interesting.
A bit faster than those that came from a STEM background.
Fantastic.
I'm not too sure what the reasoning was behind that, but you know.
But it breaks through the stereotype of STEM is automatically going to put you ahead of the game. And again, in understanding that when you're looking and screening, it's looking for more than just, as Ben, you were saying, a qualification as a proxy for capacity or potential. Ben, Conrad, have you seen anything in that STEM is the magic way forward, or that it's not as important as you think?
No, I've trained many engineers that don't have a STEM background. The only thing that I probably would say, I mean, the majority of women that come on to get into tech don't have that background. But when we bring them on Software Engineering Academy, where they might join a boot camp that has people with a computer science background or a STEM background, we find that it's worthwhile doing some pre-work with them. Because otherwise you end up in a situation where perhaps the guys that and girls that have got STEM backgrounds do tend to race a little bit ahead, a little bit quickly, and that means that they can feel a little bit left behind. And we've seen that and recognised it. And you're talking about how to improve things a little bit earlier on, and that's probably one of the things that we would do. But certainly, I've had brilliant people come through our programs, fine art people, history, geography, storm chasers, you name it. We've had them, and they've evolved into excellent engineers.
Fantastic.
They're probably more driven, actually, I would say as well.